to the Cam and Joe Show. My name is Joe Steele. I'm here with my good friend Cameron Uckles. What's up, bud?
I'm well, man. Happy Friday.
Bro, it's a blur. This week was a blur.
This week was madness.
This whole month of a week was incredible.
No, seriously. I feel like we worked 3 times as hard to get to this Friday, but, we're here. We've made it.
Absolutely. If this is your first time checking it out, please give us a like, subscribe, follow, all that good stuff. Keep up on all the interesting stuff. Cameron, I'm gonna let you introduce the person.
I would love to. I would be honored to. I'm so happy to have my friend, Miss Stacy Runyen, here with us today. She is the head of our local chapter, Back the Badge. If you have not heard of Yuba Sutter Back the Badge, look us up. Pull it up on Facebook. Stacey, thank you so much for being here this morning.
Thank you for having me.
I'm excited for you to be here.
Me too.
I love what I know of you. I love your family. I love Jim. I love that your husband's in law enforcement actively. You guys are extremely involved parents, from soccer to volleyball and baseball and everything. You
all
guys
the fun
are
stuff.
Extremely involved, and huge kudos on that side. I love seeing the Runyen family dynamic. It's incredible and admirable, having a young family myself. I'm blessed to know you. I want the community and I want the viewers to get to know you a little bit more, the Runyen family, what you guys are all about, and tell us a ton about Back the Badge and what it's all about.
Geez, you're going to start me off on a little tearjerker.
Yeah.
I love you.
That was very sweet. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you. So married to my husband, Jim. We've been married 19 years this year. We do have 2 kids, Haley and Connor. Thank you. They are in middle school, and I got one heading off to high school next year. Crazy. But yeah, big sports family, involved in all those sports, coaching, all the things. Both kids play 2 sports. So
It's awesome.
Super busy. I also have a full-time job. So let's just throw a nonprofit on top of all that too. That's cool. Yeah.
Mother, husband, mother, running a nonprofit, working full time,
Yeah.
coach. Yeah.
Well, there's a
she
reason.
does it all.
There's a reason that 10% does 90% of the work.
Exactly.
Yeah, as they say.
And so
Yes.
Yeah.
if you're doing that, you're gonna wake up one day and go, I think I can do a little bit more. I
Yeah.
feel like I'm not doing enough.
Yeah.
My Thursday has an extra hour,
Yeah.
and I could.
Throw me a nonprofit. Let's roll.
Let's just start feeding everyone at this point.
Yeah.
Why not? We'll open a kitchen.
Oh my goodness. And of course, with the nonprofit, we always try and focus on and help officers with, healthy boundaries and all
Sure.
of that jazz. And you're like, I'm not really practicing what I'm preaching.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. There've been multiple days.
No.
There've been multiple days where I'm like, hey, I wanna do like a donut day for law enforcement. And Stacey's like, can we do like a carrot and celery day? And I'm like, is it gonna get eaten or is it gonna get thrown out on Wednesday? Well, let's give them options. I'm like, are you just looking out for Jim or are you looking out for everyone at YCPD?
I think the correct answer is yes.
Yes. The correct answer is. Give us a little bit more about how many years now has Yuba Sutter Back the Badge been a chapter, and have you run it from the get-go? Give us kind of the ground floor on Back the Badge.
Yeah. So we're into our 6th year right now.
Awesome.
And we actually are not a chapter.
No.
So there is another Back the Badge out of California,
'Kay.
Back the Badge, California.
Okay.
They're a little more kind of politically driven
Gotcha.
organization. But we are Back the Badge Yuba Sutter, and we are like our own sole entity.
Your own entity.
Yep.
Got it.
Oh, that's awesome.
So our state adopted name is actually Sutter Yuba Law Enforcement Support Team.
There you go. Which makes sense.
It's
you
a
have to dialogue it out like
mouthful,
that.
no
Yeah.
acronym. We play on words.
I was thinking of the acronym. I was like, yes, a little bit.
Trying.
So after all this pondering, we finally settled on it. Let's just Back the Badge Yuba Sutter.
Yeah.
And so we go by that DBA.
Yep.
So that's what's on everything.
There
So
you go.
yeah, we're in our 6th year now. We established ourselves with just a handful of spouses that all kind of had the same idea. We were all spouses that were very much involved in our own agency that our spouse was a part of. But a lot of the times, the things that we'd plan or the ideas that we'd come up with, we always just thought, well, shoot, it's not just our agency that could benefit from
Sure.
all of this.
Yeah.
Like, how can we do something on a broader scale? So that was always the thought in our minds. And then Yuba County years ago had an incident where we kind of had heard it was hard for people to donate. They didn't know where to donate.
Sure.
The channel.
The channel, exactly. And so we were kind of like, okay, I think this is it. Like, we need to make something happen, put something together, have it a 501c nonprofit status. That way, if anything ever happens, we can help facilitate with those agencies. Because, of course, when incidents like that go down, they still have a job to do.
Yeah,
regular calls, and then on top of the investigation of whatever that critical incident was. So we just thought, let's take some of that weight off of them. And so that's what happened. So we established ourselves. We were all set up. And then we were just kind of like, lie in wait. And then we were like, well... do we want to be proactive or reactive?
Yeah,
or what can we do? And in the middle of that, pondering campfire happened.
So 2018. Got it.
So when campfire happened, one of our board members was like, this falls underneath our mission. Like,
it
let's go.
absolutely does.
Yeah.
So we collected lots of monetary donations. We helped with extra uniforms that went up the hill, food for families. We connected with Paradise PD. We helped put on a Christmas party up there. Just a lot of facilitating of that, right?
Awesome.
Some shopping, Christmas presents for those officers' families. And then the monetary donations that we got, we ended up cutting checks to departments based on the number of officers that lost their homes in the campfire. So
Wow.
And
that was November of 18, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Right. It's right before, just after Thanksgiving, between Thanksgiving and Christmas, 2018.
Yep.
When did you guys officially form? When did you guys get your tax ID number and all that? How May of 18? Oh wow. So you guys are in May. So you guys have like 6 months of, all right, we're a thing now, and then largest, most destructive.
That's how you know
fire in the state of California.
And the fact that you're still still operating just shows that you guys were ready for that.
Yeah.
I mean, you're never ready for an incident like that.
Trial by fire.
Yeah.
Quite literally.
Absolutely.
And that is everything we do.
Yeah.
Everything is like, they're like, hey, how about this idea? And I'm like, sure, we'll give it a try. I've never done this before. But that's like every single thing. Hey, how about a billboard? Sure.
How about
like,
a billboard? I don't know. Yeah, let's just go.
Okay,
and then it works out. What I love most about Back the Badge is your guys's nature to say yes. Because if you see the heart in something, you're going to get behind it. Not only have I heard through all the dinners and experiences with you guys how quickly you guys are to jump in. I'm thinking of Officer Parks and everything. The unfortunate loss of any individual that's worked Yuba Sutter counties that's passed. I'm thinking the accident. The gentleman who made the board's law enforcement officer, we rallied behind. He was working and got hit by a car.
Oh, Gordon. Yeah.
Gordon. And everything you guys did for his family. Talk a little bit what happened and the response.
So that incident was probably like the one large critical incident that has happened and that we've responded to, but that fell exactly into why we established
100%.
ourselves in the first place. So we got, I received a call early that morning. It was a Saturday morning from a CHP friend that just said that the incident had happened. It wasn't until just a little bit later that I realized it was a friend.
Yeah.
So I actually know the Gordon family. Our kids are similar in ages, and we had just been law enforcement friends. And so I just thought real hard, like, how am I going to make sure as a friend and as the president of this organization to do well by them through this incident? So
are you able to speak to the incident itself?
Yeah.
For those who don't know.
So Officer Gordon was responding to a call at the Yellow Crossing, the train trestle. Something going down. And he happened to be outside of his car working on that when 18-year-old, I think, 21-year-old was drunk driving and hit him at a very high rate of speed.
Wow.
He flew through the air, bashed up that car. If you saw the picture of that car, you would have thought there's no way anyone survived that. He was literally crushed, many broken bones, a traumatic brain injury, lots of injuries that still ail him today, of course. But but he survived. But he was in the hospital for, I want to say, approximately 4 months or so. Of course, if you ask Tina, she will tell you every single date.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
how
no,
many days,
absolutely.
like,
Yeah.
that was an experience for her, right?
For
so
sure.
we just jumped in that very first day when we did get that call. Myself and another board member drove down to the hospital with our little go bag. That's kind of one of our little signature things. So inside that go bag, we have like little games for kids, notepads, a blanket, universal phone chargers, a bunch of like toiletry type things.
Yeah.
And so we showed up with all of that. And some people, they laugh and they think it's not a big deal, but to those people in crisis, the
everything.
smallest
That's
things
huge.
are everything.
It's everything.
So for Tina, when she was woken up in the middle of the night, to see us show up with a bag that had a toothbrush in it
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
was
Yeah,
like best thing ever,
absolutely. Yeah.
right? A comb,
Yeah.
things like that, deodorant,
Yeah.
She's like,
Yeah.
I just ran out of the house.
Yeah.
Had nothing.
Universal phone charger.
Yeah,
Yeah,
phone
exactly.
charger, a notepad. So she was writing things down as the doctors would come out and such. So we came with that. We stayed with her throughout the day. Another board member spent a great deal into the evening with her, just making sure that she was getting information and updates as needed because he was in surgery most of that day. And we just continued to follow up with her and figure out the needs that she had as they came. Of course, when people hear that, all of the help wants to come in all at once.
Yeah. And then it gets overwhelming.
Overwhelming,
Like,
yeah.
What can I do?
Exactly.
And at that point, you're happy you're now established with your tax ID number
Yeah.
because it's not, oh, here's a check, here's cash, here's
Yeah.
Zelle, here's Venmo, here's
Yep.
Cash App. You're like, to have one facilitated Dropbox, financial.
Yeah.
Yep. And so as that came in, we just figured out what she needed.
Yeah.
And of course, you're in crisis mode. So you're just trying to kind of plan a little bit ahead as you can. So it was, hotel rooms, gift cards for gas, gift cards for food. We bought a hospital voucher.
Yeah.
'Cause
Yeah.
she was there for so long for people to eat.
Yeah.
Just small things like that. But then establishing long-term, helping her find a place where she could stay long-term that wasn't a hotel room, right? It got really costly. So we worked very closely with CHP. They were able to acquire an RV trailer. We found a spot at the Kiwanis area at the hospital. They have RV spots there.
Yep.
Awesome.
And so we got her established there, and she stayed quite a while. But it was just the small things, showing up around the holidays and decorating the RV. So she comes back and it's decorated for Christmas, right? If you guys know Tina, she loves the holidays.
That's awesome.
We went to her house. Something that was so important for her was that her kids' Christmas at home. Of course, Dad wasn't going to be there, but she wanted that feel of Christmas at home, and she just couldn't manage to get it done. We showed up with all of her Christmas stuff and decorated the whole house.
That's
so
amazing.
the little things like that.
Elves at work.
We were the elves, yes.
That's awesome.
But we
So
worked them.
the support goes so far. I mean, that support is incredible, right? What is the so growing up, my dad was YCPD for just over 10 years, reservist. I remember some of my youngest memories of seeing my dad actually in uniform. And I remember just growing up, I think that's probably where my respect and adoration for law enforcement came from. I mean, very organically.
Sure.
From a law enforcement family standpoint, what you guys do locally is incredible, because having been that myself, I know how it feels. So I'm thinking of the kids in that situation. Yeah, we're focusing on Officer Gordon and his spouse, but at the same time, they had young children about the ages of you guys' son and daughter, right? So putting myself into that perspective, how incredible it was, the response on them and impacting them, especially through the holiday season.
Yeah.
That's just hugely admirable. Where are you guys looking to go as far as impact locally? And when we say Yuba Sutter, I'm thinking of YCPD, Sutter County, CHP, Marysville PD, Yuba County. Do you guys go into Wheatland? Do you guys go obviously Live Oak? So anything that falls under jurisdiction of Yuba and Sutter?
Correct.
Got it.
Yes.
Got it. Is there any kind of entity like us? Well, I say us, like Back the Badge in Colusa or out that way, or how far does the scope pretty much? The focus is obviously Yuba and Sutter.
Yes.
Have you guys ever had calls out of area that are like, hey, can you guys do anything? And then
No,
No?
actually, no, we haven't. But that's kind of the unique thing with Back the Badge, right? So I think the Yuba Sutter itself is unique, right?
Yeah.
So we have 2 counties, but we have 6 different law enforcement agencies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there are entities similar to us, but it might be like, goodness, today.
You're good.
The Sacramento County has a spouse
Yeah.
and families, kind of club.
Yeah.
And so they have a huge agency and a big families group, but it's one single agency.
Yeah.
Sure.
Where we are similar in nature, but we support 2 different counties with 6 different agencies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we've got 3 police departments, 2 sheriff's departments, a CHP office. They all run differently. So trying to manage all of the differences and the multiple agencies can be a challenge, but
Sure.
we want to be able to do the things that our stakeholders want and need, right?
Yeah.
So the more feedback we can get from these departments
Sure.
on what we can do to help and support them is really where we'd like to be.
Yeah.
And not just a lie in wait kind of
Yeah.
organization.
Sure.
I would
Sure.
say just the idea of trauma response and how you guys are working in that. I mean, I worked in the medical field for 10 years. And so constantly you would see awful situation happen and the person, literally the floor's taken out from underneath them. They feel like they're falling and they're supposed to now be the one making all these predominant decisions.
Yeah.
And they're uncomfortable. They don't know what to do. And chances are high they have a kid with them.
Yes.
Yeah.
And anytime you're in any of those situations, having somebody that is sound mind going simple as, oh, here's a toothbrush, here's some deodorant, those things are huge because you're actually helping the person go, hey, look, there is a floor. There's a little stability, right? This may be kind of crazy, but you can make it through it. Question that I have, the organization, everything I'm hearing is amazing. Absolutely love it. I also do know of negative stigmas, and this is something I wanted to bring up just because it popped into my head. Like I had a friend of mine, his dad was a cop, loved the guy, absolutely amazing. And we'd give him a hard time, be like, oh, donuts, right? That's a negative stigma. Everyone cops and donuts, right?
That's the thing.
And so I told him, I was like, oh, you're gonna pick me up a donut? Hey, pick me up a donut when you're done with the shift. And he looks at me and he goes, well, why do you think I park at a donut shop? I was like, I actually don't know. And he goes, because it's quiet. I can sit there if I got paperwork I need to do. I can hear my radio. I'm ready to go. I got a cup of coffee. I'm in the town, so I don't have to travel outside. I was like, oh, and he goes, and it's in the middle of where I patrol. I was like, all right, that makes sense. All right, okay, I'll back it off, buddy. I'll back it off. But it's ignorance. Like I had no clue. I was a 13-year-old punk kid, but
You weren't that bad.
yeah,
You're all right.
we're always worse in our head, right?
That's true.
But what are stigmas? Because I know from 18 even on, there was a lot of stuff that was going on that was anti what you guys were doing. And I was grounded in old school, grew up on a farm type of a thing. So my mindset was respect, honor. But I could only imagine being in a family where this is what you are and people going, we hate what you are, how difficult that would be.
Yeah. Are you guys Ted Lasso fans? Do you watch Ted Lasso at all?
Yeah.
I've seen a couple
Yes,
episodes,
I
not
am.
so much. I don't know.
I am a fan.
You can reference it and go
There's
for
the
it.
one scene, the dart scene.
Yes.
We're talking about, yeah. And he says at the very end, be curious and not judgmental. And I've actually I've thought so much about that recently. And it's so true. And it's so easy to do, but so many of us do the complete opposite.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
We judge first and then we ask questions. But
Hence, prejudice, prejudging.
there you go.
Yeah.
Yep. So that's what I encourage people to do is just ask questions first. Be curious first.
Yeah.
A lot of times we're judgmental, of course, because we've never been in their shoes before.
It's true.
And we never will be in their shoes before, but we never will be in their shoes. But ask them questions, get to know the person, because the person that they are is not just the one with that badge,
Absolutely.
12 hours a day. There's a human behind there with a family and a lot of times kids. And so, be curious.
Speak to that. Speak to being a wife of a husband in law enforcement during the 2020 anti-cop defund the police movement? Speak to that as you, as Stacy.
Yeah.
Well, I'll just speak to that with just like my husband and I, right, and our relationship and how I see it.
Sure.
He loves his job. He has a heart for the job, a passion for the job. Wanted to be a police officer to make a positive impact, right?
Yeah.
I think that there was the idea that you could make this impact that was so positive, that was so motivating for officers. And I think that motivation has slowly just kind of gotten lost because of that.
Yeah,
it's
sure.
kind of like I'm working my butt off here, and sometimes I ask myself, what am I doing it for? You know?
Yeah.
I arrested this person, and 3 hours later on the same shift, he just walked by on the street, you know? So you hear those stories all the time, and that's got to be increasingly frustrating to
Absolutely.
to do your job exactly what you're told to do and to do it well and then not see the fruits of your labor.
Yeah.
I'm sure has to be extremely challenging.
100%.
And then, you know, Jim is now up into that administrative level, and it has its own challenges.
Commander now,
there.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Commander.
That's incredible.
And so, yeah, it has its own set of challenges up there. And then now he is trying to, you know, motivate his troops and keep that positive vibe of remember while we're here.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And always remembering where he came from, right? And so those are things that he always tries to keep in his mind. But sure, there's a lot of noise.
Yeah.
A lot of noise.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I people don't quit jobs, they quit management, right? And you can take that thought and actually take it and carry it throughout all of society. Most of the time when there's an issue, it is not because that person has done something, that person specifically. Yeah, they can be, but for the most part, it's a mindset that was taught from the top down that has been either allowed that mindset to be predominant, or there was no accountability held in any way, shape, or form. And so, you know, I know that there's just parts of the job that you just don't like. You know, I know when I was working the ER, if there was ever a hit and run, and there was a child that was ever killed, there was a hush over the whole hospital. No one had to say a thing. I mean, you'd see a little gurney, and you knew there was a 3-year-old in there. There was no part of you that there was no word that you could say. There was no part of you that was like, oh man, you're like, okay, I'm gonna have to deal with this. This is something I'm gonna have to take and go through it. And what was always nice was agencies like yours that would come in and go, hey, we brought soup. Hey, we brought food. I mean, Silver Dollar brings in food to the emergency room.
Shout out to Joe for,
you know, to me, it's that is trueness of community, right? It's easy to be like, oh, we're here for you. And then the bad stuff happens. It's like, never mind.
Yeah.
Right. But when that trauma is happening all the time, you know, I've been blessed to never have to have taken a life or been in that position, but to think of somebody being put in that position and the stress of that, and then the choice that comes. And I even know if I make a mistake with my kid, that I'll rethink that thought 1,000 times. I could only imagine. Let's amplify that by 1,000.
Yep.
In a within seconds type of a situation, and now that thought process is repeating. And so, I mean, and props to you.
Scary.
I mean, just. I know how much my wife means to me, and I wouldn't even be able to function. When I was in those places, I'd come home, and my wife's like, you okay? And I need a minute, right? And she knew something happened, and I would tell her when I needed to tell her, but I needed to do something, right? I had to get it out of my head, either listen to music, play something, just something like that. And so props to that. Like, that's it's incredible. And the fact that you're being that, not just for your husband, right? But you're being that for a plethora of other wives and a plethora of other husbands, and in all of those highly stressful situations. That is incredible, right? And that just speaks to back the badge.
Well, and just like, you know, you said, it's the relationship that you and your wife have, right? And so that's something that I'm super passionate about, because my husband and I have survived 20 years of law enforcement so far, and we're doing pretty good.
That's amazing.
So I want to share that with others, because there are plenty of relationships out there that are just barely surviving. But a lot of it has to do with understanding trauma, learning about how your brain processes trauma, and then knowing your partner and how they need to process trauma. So there's a lot of work there. There's a mouthful.
A lot of peeling back the onion as well.
But the more I have learned about trauma, about how therapists address trauma, how your brain works with processing trauma, the more I learn about all of that,
it's incredible.
It's like there's a better understanding of why officers are the way they are, right? And why they act the way they are. I went to a conference a few weeks ago and they took a survey, and overwhelmingly spouses had said or had chosen, why is my officer always so angry? And they were like, whoa. And so the conference itself kind of took a pivot because they were like, that's not really
let's address the elephant.
That was not going to be originally our focus, but it needs to be.
Sure.
And it is. So it's kind of like, why are they angry? Why are they coming home frustrated? It's learning about what hypervigilance is.
Oh, yeah.
Right? That's that whole up and down, right? Emotional Survival for Law Enforcement, I think, is the book. It's an amazing book. I feel like it should be in the academy. I feel like every family should read it, getting into the...
What's it called?
Emotional Survival. Yes, Emotional Survival for Law Enforcement.
That's awesome.
By Dr. Gil Martin. But
Annie,
it talks
Annie,
about...
will you throw that in the comment, please?
It talks about like they refer to it as the magic chair, but it's hypervigilance, right? So you've got this normalcy line, right? Homeostasis.
Yeah.
And so your officer or any first responder, right?
Yeah.
Ends up at work in this like state of hypervigilance, right? So they're always on their toes around making decisions. It's got to be quick. And so it's just work. And then they come home and they go into this big
down below
crash.
The floor.
So kind of like you said, I just need to come home and I need a minute. And that's totally normal and totally fine and needed.
Yeah.
Some people, they just drive around for a little bit before they go home if they don't have a commute, just
totally get that.
Just I need a moment. Some families even have little rituals that, mom or dad are coming home. All the kids just want to swarm at you, right? A lot of times.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it's just a family practice. Just give them a few minutes.
Sure.
And just, set yourself some family practices. But it's when you come down here and you can't get back to here, so that's a problem. Or you are down here and you go back to work tomorrow and you're up here.
Yeah.
Right.
It's just peaks and valleys.
And so when you're doing this all the time, is your family getting the best of you?
No, not
Right?
at all.
Work's getting the best of them. They're working their hardest up here, but they're coming home and crashing. And so the family sitting here at this normal line is going, I'm not getting the best of you at all.
Yeah.
The work is getting them. The community is getting them.
Yeah.
So it's learning about what hypervigilance is. It's learning about how their brains are working at work. It's just the knowledge is power kind of thing. The more
100%.
you know, the more you understand, the more empathy you can build. The more curious you can be with, your officer and asking questions and just figuring it out for yourselves, because not every family is going to be the same way, right? No. They're not going to address everything the same way. Find what works for you, what it comes with being curious and asking questions, right? Figuring it out together. But that's where my passion is. I always say my other life, I'd be a therapist, I think.
I think you are one.
But
I think you are one.
Well,
I think from a therapy standpoint, what you do is therapeutic. Whether you have the title of therapist or not,
I just don't have a fancy letter.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Stacy Runyen, the alphabet.
Just add ABC at the end of your name.
Exactly.
They're like,
with a winky face.
ABC, winky face.
I do it all.
What is that?
I do it all.
It's my own agency.
I do it a little differently. Yeah, what you do is hugely therapeutic. I mean, honestly, and hoorah to you guys. Just you guys have so much of my personal support and respect. Just everything that you guys do in the community. When I'm thinking about the billboard, to speak to the billboard really quick, the billboard, and for those of you who don't know, Back the Badge has now put up we're in the process of putting up our 4th law enforcement support billboard. So if you've driven through Yuba Sutter counties and you see the massive Yuba Sutter law enforcement, thank you, and then 14 or 15 businesses represented, that was them. That was Back the Badge. That original response the idea came to me on a treadmill. I was about to leave the gym one evening, and literally on 3 different news stations was anti-cop rally, anti-cop rally,
Yep.
cars on fire from an anti-cop rally. And that bothered me,
Sure.
like at a very anatomical level.
Core to your being.
And yeah, and I'm like, man, if these people can be so loud about being anti-police,
Sure.
why can't we maybe ruffle little feathers? Why can't we maybe not ruffle the feathers? That was kind of my response, but why can't we be a little loud, right? Why do they get all the volume, right? So I was like, well, I want to do something big. I thought billboards are big. And then I just threw onto Facebook that night.
I love your train of thought. You're like, big. What's big? Billboards are big.
Billboards are
Let's
big.
go billboards.
Let's go to the billboard. Hey man, there's a lot of monkeys. There's a lot of monkeys jumping around.
Squirrels.
Yeah, no, literally a lot of squirrels and monkeys up there. It's a circus.
That's amazing.
And I just threw onto Facebook that night, hating what I'm seeing online, all this anti-cop movement.
Sure.
And I just said, literally, I can go back to that original post. What if we threw up a massive billboard in Yuba Sutter County that just said, law enforcement, thank you for your service. Who would want to get on it? Didn't think much more of it. Went home, showered, passed out. Next morning, I woke up, and I probably had 15 to 20 direct messages from families or businesses, and
let's do
50 or 60 comments like, I'm in, and I was just like, now what? I was just the idea guy. I need the Stacy Runyens in the world. And then we had got connected. Somebody was like, well, how, I think somebody had commented or tagged her on it. And I was like, who's Stacy Runyen? Like, what is, and then what is Back the Badge? What is that all about? Let's see if we can't partner up. And then in true Back the Badge fashion, she chatted and she was like, hey, why don't you come and present about it and speak on it at our next meeting? It was like 5 or 6 days away. Reached out to April Helm, good friend of mine who I worked with in the fitness industry for all those years. And she was one of the big backers of that first board. And I pitched it to her. She's like, I'm in. When are they meeting? I was like, whatever, tomorrow night. She's like, I'll be there. So they invited April and I to come and speak on the vision. And then they voted. And then like the next morning, Stacey's like, we're in. We're all in. Let's do this thing. And then I'm like, all right, cool. Have you ever done a billboard? She's like, nope. Have you? I'm like, nope. I'm like, and then I'm thinking, we're like, what is that? What is that? It always says like a marketing on the bottom of every billboard. And we looked it up, we're like Outfront Media. All right, let's find a rep at Outfront Media. So we linked up with our guy, Jeff.
Yeah.
Linked up with our guy, Jeff. And now we're in the process of curating and building our 4th law enforcement support billboard.
That's amazing.
Which is incredible. I mean, we threw our first one up right there at the base of the 5th Street Bridge. Couldn't miss it. It's a 40 or 50,000 impression board every day.
Yeah.
So everyone that was turning onto the 5th Street Bridge, you can't miss it.
Sure.
So if you were law enforcement, awesome. If you were a son or daughter of law enforcement or a spouse of law enforcement, the goal is just to give them a glimmer. Because if you're on the news, all you see, if you're in law enforcement, all you see is anti-you, anti what you do.
Oh, no, for sure.
So to look up and see something that is, hey, keep going. We're here. We support you.
Absolutely.
I know. Having had personal conversations with law enforcement officers, many, and the ability to call many of them friends today.
Oh, sure.
To this day, the impact that had, like we nailed that. We nailed that. And then the paper coming out and then the news coming out, what it's all about. And the response every time we do it. Like, if you ask me, we're going to do it every year.
Do it.
Because there are enough local businesses, at least here in NorCal,
sure,
that are so pro law enforcement. Every time we do one, we have 4, 5, or 6 families or businesses that didn't have the opportunity to get onto it. So the support is unreal. So if you're in law enforcement, from my family to yours, I love you. Thank you. Mad respect. Keep going. And for any additional support that you feel that you need, reach out to Yuba Sutter Back the Badge, because it's just an incredible platform.
Absolutely.
And I'm happy you're here. I'm happy we get to speak on this today because it's something I'm passionate about.
Yeah, love it.
What's interesting to me is I like to connect causation and correlation, and this is how my brain works. And so what I look at is divorce rate being high, and I look at fathers not being in homes and mothers having to raise, and now you have that. Well, fathers represent the authority figures. And so if you don't have them and you have regression and you have an authority figure coming towards you, you're automatically mad.
Yeah.
And so
there's a lot to that.
I look at a lot of our issues and I go, oh, okay, yeah, you don't like authority. And it's because your authority let you down.
Yeah.
And
call it like it is, Joe.
Thank you.
Call it like it is.
So when you get into that state and we keep seeing it happening and you feel helpless and helpless and helpless, the angst gets high and high and high. And then the people doing, like you're saying, the vigilance, the hypervigilance, going, I'm doing the best I can because I know that they're broken and I don't want to let them down. And they harbor that burden on their shoulders. You now have two people that are just burdened.
Yeah.
One burdening, I have to, I cannot let my fellow brethren fall and I must hold this standard. And the other going, where were you when I was 6? Where were you when right? Yeah. And I think that's
huge.
That's what makes this so good, is because being a guy, I come at it in the paternal. I come in at it looking at it as, how can I create the rules and structures to fix this? Well, when people are in trauma, rules and structures don't necessarily fix it.
Yep.
It makes things worse.
Yeah.
It can smear.
Yeah.
Right? It's not something that's good. And so, like, to me, this is exactly what is necessary. It is bringing that love and compassion in heart, going, hey.
To law enforcement.
We are, to both, because you're telling the community, hey, this is not the source of your problem.
Yeah.
We support them. You support them, right? And just seeing the sign. Yeah, you're right. You know what? I need to support them. Just the visual aid of seeing a sign makes you go, you know what? I need to support them, right?
Yeah.
Okay, maybe they're not the angst of my issues. But if you never hear about it, you never talk about it, and all it comes up is in the negative format, then of course it's going to have that negative connotation. And of course it's going to have that angst. And so I see you de-escalating two different things. I see you de-escalating these concepts that cops are bad or that they're hyper justice focused. And it's like, no, they're doing their job and they're doing the best they can with the pressures they have. And you're addressing that. Yeah, guess what? You had a screwed up childhood and you messed up. Stuff has happened in your life, but these people are still good.
Yeah.
And in community, we have to be able to get past our deficiencies.
Yeah.
We have to get past these walls that we build up and go, you know what? Maybe I don't know everything. And if you can get somebody just to say, I don't know everything, to me, that's a win of a conversation. You can yell at each other for 6 hours.
Yeah.
At the end, you know what? You're right. I don't know any. I may not know. You win. Because that is the admission of things need to be fixed, and I just don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
So if people are wanting to donate and they want to do that, let's land this plane because we want to honor your time.
Yep.
Where can they go? How they can go about that?
I'm having so much fun. I love this.
We're only on your clock, so I mean, we can keep rolling.
Keep it going, but I'm wanting to honor your time.
Can we roll for a little bit?
One more time.
We go.
Okay.
This is like,
cool.
The coffee's hitting. Cancel my 10 o'clock meeting, please.
Get me a straw.
Deep dive into what else what other kind of topics do you want to dive into? I mean, because there's just we're scratching.
There's so much
top
we
layer.
the surface of a lot of.
Well, kind of like on what you said too, like twofold, right? So the officer side and the family side.
Family side, yeah.
I think what is super helpful that we do as well, at least a goal that we have, is being able to have those shared experiences.
Yes.
And those shared experiences show both sides that they are not alone in the walk that they're walking, right? So those officers, it's trying to connect other officers with shared experiences.
Yeah.
A lot of times just, basic peer support is your very first psychological first aid, right? Basic peer support. So making sure that they have that and shared experiences that they can all share together. And then you have that relief of, okay, I'm not the only one.
Yep.
Yes.
We've spoken to that multiple times.
Yeah, that is
this is episode, what are we on, 16? 17?
16, 17.
So often on this podcast, we've gone back to you can't be on an island. You cannot is the second you are going through something and you feel like you're alone, whether it's trauma or abuse or addiction or alcoholism or anything that's happened socially or privately to you, the second you feel that you alone are going through it, I mean, God, the negativity just starts to spill into your ear. So the second you can pop your head up and be like, hold on, splash some water in your face, I'm not alone in this.
Yeah.
The second healing through that process begins. Hugely therapeutic.
Yeah.
And so for the families too, or for the spouses, right? You're not the only one showing up to the barbecue by yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're not the only one who's absolutely exhausted putting the kids to bed because, your spouse happens to be working graveyards, the next
for sure.
4 months,
Yeah.
So there's always something to share. There is always someone out there that has a shared experience,
Yep.
and there is always someone out there that is willing to talk and share with on both sides.
Yeah.
Right. So that's another a big passion of wanting to make those connections for people.
Yeah.
We have an amazing board. We have 12 people right now on our board. They are all amazing people. Every one of them also have full-time jobs. So everything that you see that we do, it's filling in the gaps of our lives.
Absolutely.
When you say, hey, they brought us soup after some critical incident, we do that quite a bit. And so, we're on our little app going, especially with kids,
Sure.
kid something just went down at such and such county. I saw that, 2 agencies both responded to that one. That was a really tough one. Anyone available? And you're just like, who happens to be available right now or tomorrow morning, who can maybe pick something up, write up a card, and so we all fill in where we can. Everyone has something to offer that they bring to the table. They're wonderful people.
Yeah.
They love what they do. I love working with them.
So awesome.
It's been a joy and a privilege to work with them. And so many past board members too, right? That helped us get to where we're at. They're all just wonderful people that just want to help out. So I just wanted to make sure I got a good shout out to them.
Shout out to the board.
Good job.
Shout out to the board.
Absolutely. Well, and it's, going into the schools and taking care of situations that happen there. Those are already hyper situations of on either side. There's too much emotion. Anything happens at a school, anything happens with kids. It's just hyper emotionalizing in any way. And so having somebody that goes, ho, hey, let's not let this become a traumatic experience. This was a bad moment. This moment doesn't have to define X agency or your childhood or the school system itself. We need to come in and do that. I mean, again, that goes to that whole trauma response. To me, it just makes so much sense.
Yeah.
And speaking of trauma response, we've got a shout out to Carrie Kaufman as well with Kaufman Therapies. So she is a culturally competent therapist, we call her, that has a background with law enforcement. And so she has multiple contracts with agencies now within the area. We've had a contract with her for well over a year now, I think. And so Back the Badge helps offset the cost of her therapy services. So that's something we're super proud of. We love that we were able to meet with her. She's made a huge impact in the law enforcement community already. I hear back from some families that have seen her and have positive experiences coming out of that. And nothing makes me happier than seeing healing from trauma that has happened. And so I love having her as a resource. And that's really what Back the Badge is too, is just a resource, right? We have so many other resources.
Lots of arms into different things. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. But she's fantastic too. And we're really proud of that connection and being able to help families financially take care of that, because it can get costly over time.
So we just had 2 therapists on last month, and we were talking about that social, who are you, right? That ended up being the big determining factor. Identity was just massive. And often, I mean, and again, there's stigma with therapists, just like there's stigmas with cops, there's stigma with everything. And the biggest thing they were even talking about was, we're just an extra sounding board to get it off your off, because you have stuff in your brain. You think, I can't say that out loud because someone will think that I'm a freak, or they'll think that. And having that board going, hey, look, this is genuinely what I felt. Am I messed up? Right? What can I do? That is just, it's incredible. Everything. Like I will say I've never been anti-therapy. No part of me has ever been like, you go to therapy. But there was always that part of like, you're so messed up, you need therapy.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but I mean, you're speaking to a societal norm, so it's you free space to say that. When you're like, oh man, I need to see a therapist, there's a negative connotation there.
Straight up.
And I want to do what we need to do, and we need to continue to do everything we can do with this platform to break that negative stigma. Yeah. Because, I mean, the opposite side of that coin, drug addiction skyrocketing, suicide skyrocketing. Absolutely. Being isolated, feeling alone and on that island skyrocketing. So how important is it for the Back of the Badges of the world and the other tip of the world, trauma intervention.
Oh yeah.
Amazing.
Absolutely.
REST organization,
Yep.
Frank South. Like there's no better time for these agencies to be, and you don't even want to say thriving. We said it with two therapists sitting right here.
Yeah.
I wish the world didn't need therapists.
Yeah, exactly.
I wish the world didn't need therapists. I wish the world didn't need these kind of agencies to jump in, but we do.
Yep.
And the world does. So to land the plane,
Land it.
I love you. I'm proud of you guys.
Thanks, Cam.
I love Back the Badge. I love everything that you guys are about. Without saying it, you know that you have my support in any endeavor that we take this thing.
Well, you're amazing, and you have such a presence in our community too. And so you've been a voice for us. I mean, hello, billboard number 4, right? Like,
Let's go.
When Cam goes yelling and wants to rally the troops, he's got troops behind him.
Absolutely.
So
This community's
I
incredible.
love that he uses that in so many positive ways.
For community's incredible.
Awesome. So back to so what's the website if they
Yeah.
want to donate?
So on the back.
On the back.
Email is backthebadge.yubasutter
Yep.
at gmail.com.
Yep.
So email us questions.
Love it.
If you want to volunteer, we have an ambassador program, which is where you're not necessarily on the board voting and doing monthly meetings, but you want to be a part of an event or something that we put on in volunteer time.
That's amazing.
We are, of course, a 501c3, so it's all a tax write-off. We give receipts for any donations as needed. We've got PayPal that people use to donate as well. We're on Facebook, Instagram. Come find us. Like, share, comment.
All the good things.
What is it? Oh, I already said that.
Subscribe
what are the
on
other
us.
subs-
There
There you go.
There you go. Subscribe.
Click. Just
Click,
click on the
click,
thing.
click.
Click
it
all
all.
the things. Backthebadgeys.org. You can go to the website. You can donate. And if this is the first time you're hearing the Cam and Joe show, welcome. We enjoy that you're here having the conversation. Throw a comment in there. Throw a like. Share this to some of your friends. We're just trying to keep up community support and building the agencies that are helping define and create a future for our community that's the best. So thanks for tuning in.
You guys are awesome.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you
Thanks so
so
much
much.
for having me. Thank you.
Thank you for checking out the Cam and Joe show.
If you guys are liking our content so far, you can follow us on Facebook and Instagram. You can also listen to us on Spotify.